Hello, everyone. I'm Jonna Burke, the Global Managing Director at AMAC, and it is a great pleasure to welcome you to our AMAC Measurement Month 2020 series featuring Andrew Bruce Smith. Our session today is on Google Data Studio as an integrated PR measurement platform. And this is one that I think there's so much interest in because it's one of those elements that helps us understand information and data better. So a huge thanks to Andrew for joining us today. I want to take a couple of minutes to talk about some housekeeping items before we totally turn the time over to him. And that is, if you would please make sure that you post your questions in the Q&A field. I'll be looking at the chat throughout, but to make sure that we don't miss any of the questions that you're undoubtedly going to have while we have Andrew with us today, please make sure you post the questions there so we can capture them and maybe have a follow-up blog post as appropriate. Before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit more about Andrew, who's here with us today. And I won't go into his, as you can imagine, very long bio, but I do want to mention that he was recently cited by the Charter Institute of Public Relations, the CIPR, one of our strategic partners, as one of PR's greatest thinkers and as part of CIPR's list of 70 members who made an outstanding contribution to the Institute and the wider PR industry. And I think anyone who knows Andrew absolutely knows that to be true. And those of you who don't will quickly realize why that's a true statement. He is a co-author of Share This and Share This Too, and it is a best-selling practical handbook to the biggest changes taking place in the media and the profession. So we really have a world-class speaker here with us today, and without wasting any more time, Andrew Bruce Smith, I'd like to turn the time over to you for this great session.
Great, thank you so much for that. Very kind words in your introduction. So welcome everybody to this session on Google Data Studio and utilizing it as an integrated PR measurement platform. I guess the obvious place to start really is, well, what is it? What is Google Data Studio? If I'm trying to keep this as brief and as simple as possible, it is basically a tool from Google. It's been around for around 4 years now. And I like to characterize it as it's a dashboard creation tool, which I guess is the specific definition of it. But I think more importantly, it is a way for anybody who's prepared to put some effort into it to present data and information from multiple sources and to combine them in a way that makes it much easier to gain the insights that really are actionable and beneficial. There's no shortage of tools that can allow you to kind of present data, but I really do think that Data Studio is set apart, not least of which because of, as we will see over the next 45 minutes or so, 50 minutes, it affords you an enormous amount of flexibility, both in terms of what you can pull in, how you can present that data, and with whom you can then share that data and analysis and insights. And we shouldn't forget, of course, that it's free. It does not cost anything to actually use the tool. So that's an additional benefit to be had. So if you haven't done so already and you're not already using Google Data Studio, I would urge you to as soon as possible go away and create your own free Google Data Studio account. The process will probably take about 2 to 3 minutes. So that's the obvious sort of necessary starting point, having a Data Studio account. Because that allows you to obviously create dashboards. It obviously allows you to have other dashboards shared with you. Now, when you first open up your Data Studio account, when you've created it for the first time, no doubt you'll be thinking, well, where do I start? And perhaps rather than sort of diving in and creating your own customized bespoke dashboard from a blank screen, you could choose to use one of the ready-made templates that are already there and available within Google Data Studio. So I should stress that from a purely PR measurement perspective, certainly a lot of the the templates in GDS will relate to kind of other aspects of marketing. But nevertheless, if you wanted to kind of start with at least something, so you might perhaps choose a simple template that might say, look at social media data. Those basic templates are already there and already exist. And that's quite a nice way in, because it allows you to start with something immediately, and then all you have to do is to connect your own data sources to it, and voila, you already have a working dashboard. Those dashboards you can then tweak, amend, and work with, as you see fit. But as a way in for many people, utilizing the template is a good starting point. Clearly, if you wish to, you can start from a completely blank screen and build it from there. So again, in that sort of early process, what needs to be in place to allow you to start building a dashboard? Well, the first question that Google asks you before you start running off and presenting your data is, well, you clearly have to tell Google, well, where can it pull that data from? Now, Google Data Studio provides a whole raft of different ways to allow you to pull in your relevant data sources to a dashboard. And this is done through a thing called a Data Studio connector. The slide you're looking at here shows you the 18 purely Google connectors for connecting Google related data sources. So you'll see that first one in the top left, it's Google Analytics. Interesting point there, of course, anyone who's been using Google Analytics over the last several years, you will know, or maybe you don't know, but it's there. Google Analytics has provided an option within GA to create dashboards for a long time. But if you've actually gone into that dashboard section, certainly for the last 3 years, then Google has been telling you, please go and use Data Studio to build dashboards. So even Google has been recommending that you build Google Analytics dashboards using Data Studio for some time, and they're continuing to urge you to do that for a whole bunch of reasons, not least of which using Data Studio allows you to effectively cherry pick specifically the data points, metrics, and dimensions that you want, and to often be able to display them within a dashboard in a far more bespoke, customized fashion, which is not to decry Google Analytics, but you are most of the time literally taking kind of pre-built reports that it gives you, whereas more often than not, you'll probably want to build something very, very specific to what you're trying to do. So GA, one of the many tools, and we can you can pull in data from all these various other Google sources. A couple of others just to highlight: Google Sheets. So again, if you've got data already in Google Sheets, or it's going to be relatively easy to pull data into a Google Sheet, that's often a great place to use as your fuel for your dashboard. As we'll see a little later, that affords you obviously other options to perhaps automate data collection into the sheet, which in turn can then update the dashboard. That opens up the whole possibility of using Google Data Studio to create real-time monitoring dashboards. Also in there is the simple file upload. In other words, if you've got data in a good old CSV file, perhaps you've got lots of historical data already saved in CSV, that can be used as fuel for your dashboard. That again is great, where it allows you to take historical data that you haven't been able to kind of properly analyze. It can fuel a dashboard, and then you can add to it with new data. So you're building up both a kind of rear view mirror as well as a way of looking into the future. And YouTube analytics, other interesting ones are, one more to just to kind of mention is BigQuery. So I don't want to get kind of overly technical at this point, but the BigQuery connector is an interesting one, not least of which in relation again to Google Analytics. Some of you may already appreciate that Google has in the last week or two announced Google Analytics 4, which is the brand new shiny version of Google Analytics. And one of the really nice things, among the many nice things about GA4, is that Google is now allowing you to export data from GA4 into BigQuery. Why is this a big deal? Well, previously you could do it, but you had to use the paid version of Google Analytics. This wasn't available to the vast majority of us who use the free version of GA. And the fact that that is now open to all GA users is interesting, because it then allows you to not only export GA4 data into BigQuery, it means you can export the data in an unaggregated fashion. Again, it might seem a bit technical, but anyone who spent any time with GA data and wants to start to do some slightly beyond standard things, you start to realize, actually, I don't want it aggregated. I just want the raw data. I want to be able to pull it out and manipulate it in exactly the way that I want. So the fact that you can get the data into BigQuery and then you can then use that to then fuel a dashboard opens up some really interesting possibilities about blending Google Analytics data with data from other sources to build a holistic picture. But it's not just Google. Data Studio comes with literally hundreds more third-party data connectors. So if you've got data in a third-party tool and you want to use that to fuel your dashboard, then chances are there probably is a data connector waiting there for you. This particular slide, you'll note there's a lot of connectors there from a company called Supermetrics. So Supermetrics has been very, very proactive in providing lots of data connectors to allow you to kind of pull data in from lots and lots of different places, different sources. The thing I'd say here, I think is of particular interest to anyone working within PR and comms measurement, because I encounter this a lot. It's where people want to be able to pull in perhaps media measurement data, but also to pull in social media data. Now, the fact remains, of course, that there are lots of tools out there to monitor for social listening, etc., but they're effectively looking at social media from the outside. Almost certainly organizations and agencies will be working with organizations where you've got your own social media properties, and that's providing data specifically for that social media property. So, if you've got a Twitter account, then Twitter will provide you with the impressions that an individual tweet has gained. So trying to kind of pull data from all these different sources and put them in one place and try and sort of build that holistic picture. I'm not saying you haven't been able to do it previously, but it's been somewhat of an effort. So having a data connector that can natively pull, say, data from a Twitter account or a Facebook page or multiple pages, bring it in and allow you to kind of combine that data in one place, I think is really quite interesting. So hopefully you can already start to see how this can help you to kind of build an integrated picture. It's entirely now down to you to decide, well, what data do I want? What do I need? That issue should kind of go away if you can pull it all together and combine it in one place. If you're feeling brave enough, of course, the sky's the limit. You don't have to be restricted to using the data connectors that Google provides. It's Google, so if you're so minded personally, or you know people who have those skills, they provide the necessary toolkits to allow you to build your own data connector. So if you think about it, there shouldn't exist on the planet any data source that can't be used as a data source if you're prepared to invest the effort. If it's not already taken care of by Google's own connectors or the third-party connectors, nothing to prevent you from building your own data connector. So just to reiterate, Google Data Studio as a dashboard tool, reporting tool, absolutely gives anyone who wants to the ability to integrate or pull in multiple data sources into a single dashboard. And again, it opens up the possibility of real-time, or if I'm being accurate, near real-time dashboards. So if you're pulling, say, data or updating, say, a Google Sheet, that will refresh every 10 to 15 minutes. So there's an enormous amount of kind of flexibility and possibility provided to you through the use of Google Data Studio. So let's just quickly look at that aspect of automation. I've kind of mentioned it already. I'm sure many of you will be familiar with automation technologies such as if this, then that, or Zapier. For those of you that haven't used these tools before or are unfamiliar with them, they are just that. They are, in the case of if this, then that, it's a free technology that allows you to automate an action on one platform or service, if it's triggered by an action on another. In the case of measurements, I mean, a really common aspect is, well, we want to kind of capture data. So, for example, which we'll get onto shortly, if we want to pull in a media monitoring feed, if we can automate pulling that data automatically into a spreadsheet, and that spreadsheet can then automatically provide the fuel for a dashboard. We're obviously saving on that rather sort of tedious kind of manual or time sucky process that of getting the data in the first place, and hopefully frees up much more time to actually pay attention to the analysis and the insight and the actionability. So to give us a quick example of that, I'm sure many of you out there, if you don't still do it, you have done it in the past. Good old Google Alerts. I know a lot of people think that Google Alerts are nowhere near as good as they used to be, but the fact remains that they're free, and it's a really kind of low cost way of kind of monitoring for kind of content published on the web. What many people don't realize, of course, is that with a Google Alert, you can either choose to receive those alerts either via email, which I suspect is the way in which the vast majority of people receive those alerts, or you have the option of receiving it as an RSS feed. RSS feeds, I think, are one of the kind of most underrated aspects of data collection and measurement still today. If you can get your data in an RSS feed, that absolutely opens up the possibility of automated data collection, and it gives you that possibility of creating dashboards built upon that data. In a similar vein, I'm just taking an example here of BuzzSumo. Again, I'm sure many people will be familiar with BuzzSumo, certainly as a kind of Swiss Army knife social media toolkit. So it will support analyzing trends, etc. It also happens to have, I think, a quite nifty built-in monitor facility. And what I also like is the fact that, again, it will allow you to capture that data via an RSS feed. The fact in both of those cases, you can take the RSS feed and you can use if this, then that, or Zapier to say, when I capture information via the feed, take that information and then automatically add that information as an additional new line in a Google Sheet that I specify. And then that Google Sheet can then in turn fuel a dashboard. We'll see shortly all the different formats, chart types, widgets, etc. that you can use to display data. But that basic principle of how do I get my data into a format that I can then use to then power my dashboard is what we should always kind of keep at the top of our minds. Again, just to reiterate with BuzzSumo, of course, it's pulling in not just the fact that I'm monitoring, say, for a particular keyword and, oh, look, it appeared there. It's also pulling in data around social sharing. It's pulling in data around domain authority. It's pulling in data around, does that piece of content contain a link or not, back to my chosen or designated website. So what I'm saying here is that you're automating, collecting lots of really, really useful data points without any human intervention, which in turn can then allow you to kind of power a dashboard. And then Google Data Studio is then obviously allowing you to then perhaps combine that information with other data points to build out a more kind of holistic view of what's actually going on. before I finish, and I'll look at some specific examples of why that ability to pull in multiple data sources, I think, really does take measurement and evaluation to a new level. So as I've mentioned, we've looked at very, very quickly, we've looked at some of the ways in which we can get data into the dashboard. The next stage of the process really is, well, how do I want to display that data? And unsurprisingly, as far as Google is concerned, they're giving you a lot of flexibility in how you do that. And I should stress, of course, that this is actually quite a key point, because obviously it's one thing to say, great, I'm pulling all this data in from all these different places, but equally importantly, if not more importantly, what is it I'm actually going to choose to display on this dashboard? Another crucial question is, who is going to see this dashboard? Who is this dashboard intended for? What do they need to know? How can I create a dashboard that makes it completely obvious, the data story, if you will, that's being painted or being told here? So what I'd say is that when you're starting out, it's the shiny new toy syndrome. You'll probably go and go, wow, it's amazing. Hey, I can do a movable bubble chart. Isn't that cool? Which it is. I just be wary of simply using a display or a chart type because it looks cool. Very, very often, a good old-fashioned table might be the best way to display a particular set of data. I'm on record, of course, as being a kind of anti-pie chart. Of course, you're free to use pie charts should you wish to do so, but I have a personal, it's not just me, there are others out there that also think that the pie chart probably is the least useful chart format. So they're there, but don't always necessarily gravitate towards them. You've got scorecards, which are great. Sometimes it's really, really good just to be able to display that simple target, that simple number in that fashion. Again, I should also stress that Google Data Studio makes it very, very easy to build comparisons, because when we think about it, more often than not, that's really fundamentally what we're interested in trying to detect a change. Have we seen an increase in whatever metric we're looking at? Have we seen a decrease? So that ability to allow you to kind of build those comparison charts and displayed in a variety of formats, I think is really quite powerful and quite important. And just to give a little shout out to one of the many chart formats that are available. I mean, Google has certainly spent a lot of effort over the last, I guess, year in the way in which you can display geographical or geo related data. I'm going to highlight a specific example before I finish, but I think it's worth giving that a shout out because, again, very recently, it's not only allowing you to display information in a map format, but it's actually allowing you to display it on a Google map and allowing you to combine functionality of a Google map by them bringing in data as well. And again, depending on the story you're trying to tell or trying to paint, that can offer you a kind of a very, very powerful way of doing that. So I guess to kind of try and sum all of that up, actually, before I do sum it all up, before I forget, one of the really neat feature of many of these chart functions is the ability to put in a target. So you might be able to see it, but right down the bottom of that drop down on the slide there, there's the bullet chart format. That's a really great way of being able to display a kind of target number for a period, and it shows you how far are we to getting it, and you can then customize it to show that yes, we're on track, we're behind schedule, we're ahead of schedule, depending on a metric, depending on the measurement. So to sum up now, I really just want to kind of stress that in terms of the palette, if you will, of chart types and the ways in which you can display your data. I think you'd be kind of hard pushed to find anything else that allows you to do this that doesn't involve spending substantial amounts of money. Other sort of things to bear in mind. You can build a dashboard, and obviously, as we've just seen, you can use it to display your data in a whole variety of different formats. But it doesn't end there. It allows you, Google Data Studio allows you to also add in multimedia. So you want to embed video, include graphics, etc. You're absolutely free to do that. One little thing that I've done amongst the many dashboards that I've built over the last couple of years, sometimes you want to be able to give those people who are going to receive the dashboard some sort of guidance about how to read the dashboard, interpret the data, etc. You could obviously just write them a document and say, read this, or what better way to do it but to create a little explainer video. And the fact that you can create that explainer video, embed it on the dashboard, so anybody who goes to the dashboard can always just watch the little explainer video, and hopefully that allows them to get more immediate benefit from the data that they're looking at. Or if you give them that ability, you can obviously allow them to kind of slice and dice the data as well in their own right. Again, in terms of being able to share those dashboards, at its most simple level, you're sharing a link, so anybody who has access to the link can view the dashboard. Again, it's Google, so they obviously put a lot of thought into making sure that only the people who should see a particular dashboard are able to do so. So you can password protect links, for example. If you've got people that don't want to kind of use a browser to go and access the online dashboard, GDS gives you the option to send them a snapshot of what the dashboard looks like. It automatically generates a PDF snapshot of the dashboard at a specific time, and you can obviously schedule those. So let's say you want to send that snapshot PDF view of the dashboard every Monday at 9 a.m. to your chosen group. You set that up, and until you tell Google Data Studio to stop doing it, that PDF snapshot will indeed be duly emailed to your designated recipients at 9 a.m. on a Monday, or whichever time you choose, or at whichever frequency you choose to do so. That last point, I think, is again really quite interesting for many organizations, is the ability to embed Google Data Studio dashboards elsewhere. I'm thinking primarily here of organizations that have their own intranet. So the ability to create a dashboard and then embed that dashboard into the organizational intranet, can obviously be highly beneficial to many organizations. Again, if you want to do so, you can make dashboards publicly available. You can embed them on a web page on your website. So, maybe there might be particular instances where you want to create a dashboard and you're quite happy to make that dashboard publicly available. Well, it's easy enough to be able to embed that within a specific web page on a particular website. So the summary there really is that there are lots and lots of different ways that Google allows you to share and provide access to your dashboards to relevant users and stakeholders in a variety of different formats. Now, another aspect of Google Data Studio, and I should stress, of course, that on the whole, what you're using Data Studio for is to allow you to take data already captured elsewhere and then to display it in the dashboard in a format that is going to help you tell your data narrative, your data story. But it's Google, of course, so why stop there? You've got the ability to actually add in your own custom dimensions and metrics into the dashboard, feeding from the data that you've already provided. You can create your own calculated metrics, and I think that's really, really very, very powerful. That opens up the possibility of pulling in data from different places, and even if the source of your data doesn't already provide that dimension or that metric, Data Studio allows you to create those new customized and oftentimes calculated metrics, which can then be displayed on the dashboard and automatically kind of calculated from the data that you're pulling in. For example, let's say I'm managing your multiple Facebook properties. So Facebook, of course, provides a whole raft of metrics, but it might not provide, for example, or what if I wanted to kind of calculate the kind of average average comment rate for a particular post? Or let's, for argument's sake, say that I'm running some kind of Facebook community, and I'm looking at sort of the individual posters, and I can see, well, there's a particular member of the community, and they've generated lots of views, but they've generated lots of views because they've posted lots and lots of content. So the kind of the average number of views, they've used a brute force approach, whereas others may post less frequently. So if I'm looking at it purely from how much content have they published, well, the person who publishes 50 posts is going to get more attention than the person who posts 3 posts. But I might find that the person who's only posted 3 posts actually has a far higher average view or impression rate, or generates far more kind of engagement. You can obviously create your own calculated metrics based on the data already provided, in this case by Facebook, and then use that to be displayed on a dashboard. It may well begin the start of a process of giving you insights you would otherwise not have gleaned, and may well change your thinking about what really is working or not working. And again, suffice to say, you can use sort of very, very kind of basic calculations, and there's a whole, I mean, you can go to the support page on the Data Studio site. I mean, just the myriad list of functions. Anyone who's ever used a spreadsheet, beyond the @sum function, will know that Google Sheets and Excel has just mind-bending arrays of functions. So I'm not going to pretend that Google Data Studio has that level of additional functions in there, but I would suspect it's got more than enough to keep most people happy. So I like to stress that, because I think that's really quite important, that ability to not only display data, but also to potentially calculate new metrics, or provide ways of getting insights out of the data that you've already captured elsewhere, and presenting it in a way that helps you to take more informed and actionable ways forward. Just some other sort of nice things to have around using this as an integrated platform, and it might seem a bit meta, but if you've gone to all this effort, you've watched this session, and then you're a total convert, and you go away and you're building your stakeholders and your clients these fantastic new dashboards, you probably want to know, well, is anybody actually looking at them? And what's really nice about Google Data Studio, unsurprisingly, is that there is a way for you to track and measure your dashboard usage. So you'll be able to see, well, we've got 10 stakeholders, and I can see that only 2 of them have actually bothered to look at the dashboard this week. So they were beating us up to create this dashboard in the first place, and now that we've produced it for them, I can see that well, only 2 of them are looking at it. So I'm going to go back to them and say, so you can't personally identify which ones are the 2 and which ones are the 8, but you definitely get an overall perspective that says, over a given time period, these are the number of people who've visited the dashboard. As we can see shortly, if you've got a multi-page dashboard, then are the particular pages that people spend more time on and pay more attention to. So in an ironic way, you can all actually build a dashboard to monitor your dashboard usage without getting too kind of crazy about it. But that, again, I think is an aspect of Data Studio that's often overlooked, but I think it's quite useful. You go to all this effort to build these things. it's kind of good to understand whether or not people are actually bothering to look at them and to use them, and potentially use that information as you would use with a website to perhaps then refine and tweak the dashboard based upon actual usage by users. I mean, point number two, because I can tell you for free, once you start getting into this, you're going to go crazy creating dashboards. Got to be a bit careful, because then of course you're faced with kind of managing multiple separate dashboards. Again, Google Data Studio, you can use it in a quite meta fashion to perhaps build a master dashboard, which you can then use to link through to lots of other sub dashboards. So I've implemented a couple of these in recent times, where, for example, let's say you've built specific dashboards on a country by country basis or department by department basis, and you want some way of being able to provide a single route in to get through to them. So again, nothing to stop you from creating a master Data Studio dashboard, which then acts as a kind of portal through to your sub dashboards. And then the final point on this slide, and again, it might seem a quite sort of techie thing to mention, but I think it's actually quite important, that Google provides the dashboard creator with the option to allow those who are going to view the dashboard to not have to have access to the underlying data sources. So what I mean by that is, let's say I create a dashboard and I'm pulling in data from 5 different places. It could be Google Analytics, it could be from a media measurement platform, etc. And that dashboard is intended for senior management. Now, if I choose the owner option, that says, look, I'm the dashboard creator, I've got access to the underlying data sources, I'm going to give permission to who I choose to select to view the dashboard, permission to view the data in this dashboard without them having to have access to the underlying data sources. I mean, I don't want the chief exec to have a login for Google Analytics. I mean, the chief exec might if they're that interested, but I suspect you don't want to give or compel the CEO in this case to have to be a user or to have login rights to the underlying data source. You just want the CEO to get the dashboard, you want it to load quickly, and you want to see it. So I think that's quite powerful. So you as the dashboard creator, if you select the owner option, you're effectively passing on those access rights by virtue of your access rights to the user. Conversely, you might want to stipulate that that's a mandatory part of it. So you might say, look, I only want people who've got access to those underlying data sources to be able to view the dashboard. As I say, it may seem a bit sort of esoteric, but I think that's again, I think it's part of Google trying to kind of consider all the if you will, the kind of the ecosystem of dashboard creation. Not only giving you a tool to create them, but also thinking about who will you provide this dashboard to? How do we manage the balance between ease of access, security, privacy, all those issues and concerns, which again, to be fair, for a tool that costs zero, is quite nice to have in place. So some specific use cases, which I've kind of already alluded to. I mean, for me, when we're looking at PR and a kind of integrated PR measurement dashboard, the thing that I've really found it to be most useful for is that ability to pull in these different data sources. So pulling in media coverage data with perhaps search volume data, social media engagement data, etc. Again, a question I often get asked is, oh, well, now that we've got Data Studio and it costs nothing, can I just kind of get rid of these monitoring platforms that we've got? And it's like, well, no, that's not the point of it. The point of it is that it's simply allowing you to take the data from these different tools that you've got and bring them together to allow you to kind of build a more holistic picture. So again, one of the great things there might be to be able to pull in, say, media evaluation data and social media data and perhaps correlate it with search volume. So the marketing world, I think, has been well, parts of the marketing world have got very excited in the last few weeks or possibly this year in a concept called share of search. So Les Binet, who is I think very well known in marketing circles as an effectiveness kind of guru, and Les Binet has done amazing research, empirical data research over many years, looking at the relationship between share of voice and market share. Cut a long story short, your share of voice tends to match your market share. So if your share of voice is higher than your market share, that's usually predictive of an increase in market share. But now he's discovered search, and he's discovered the miracle of share of search. And according to Les Binet, and apparently he's tested this out on at least 3 categories to say this kind of works, is that share of search is reflective of share of voice, or it should be, and share of search in turn is predictive of a market share. So lining those 3 up. So in other words, if I can show that, for example, rising visibility through media articles or social media correlates after a time or a period with, say, an increase in, say, brand-related search, that should be predictive of, say, an increase in market share. So what I think is really quite exciting is that, well, as Les Binet has said, that share of search data you can get out of Google Trends for free. So imagine being able to have a Google Data Studio dashboard that would pull in your media and social and perhaps other marketing data and combine it and correlate it with share of search data. And who knows, if you've got access to it, pull in the sales data as well. And if you can track that, yes, awareness or visibility has risen and share of search has risen, that is predictive of a market share increase. Now we can start to kind of say, well, that is the value that our awareness raising activities have generated. So I'm optimistic that the age-old conundrum of, how do I demonstrate the impact of PR and social media activity that is largely designed to raise awareness, we're kind of hopefully edging towards something that allows us to be able to do that. I think what's even more exciting is that the ability to pull something together to allow you to see that is kind of there already. And I guess related to that, I talk about regression analysis. So it is that idea that it's one thing to show rising levels of visibility, but that tends not to have an immediate knock-on effect. It's a cumulative, progressive effect. Again, Les Binet has extolled the virtues of getting the balance between kind of brand and awareness raising and brand building, combined with so-called performance or activation approaches. And he's long argued that the empirical data suggests that your split should be 60% invested in brand and awareness building, 40% on performance activation. He's done a similar study very recently in conjunction with LinkedIn around B2B specifically. Slightly different there, but it's still 55 brand, 45 performance. The point here is that imagine having a dashboard that says we can see that correlation. We can perform that regression analysis that says, using regression analysis, 85% of that rise in performance or share of search or indeed market share is explained by the data points we're seeing or that we're using for measuring awareness stroke visibility. So that's very, couple of really specific use cases, but I think they're mind-bendingly powerful in the wider context of PR measurement. We've heard it forever. I've worked in the PR sector for just over 3 decades. We were complaining about our inability to demonstrate the value of PR 30 odd years ago, and we're still talking about it. Well, I'm optimistic and hopeful that the tools to allow us to be able to get those insights are now at hand, and we just need to make the effort to start to use them. Another very sort of specific use case of Google Data Studio. So the example, this ticks a number of boxes. This is just to give an example of how you can use Google Data Studio to combine data that you're more familiar with, but also combine it with perhaps non-standard data, but then again to demonstrate the effect of PR activity. So this is using the Google Maps functionality within Google Data Studio. In this instance, it was plotting media coverage in the UK, regional media coverage around a product recall, and then combining data on, where were the inbound customer service phone numbers kind of coming in on a geographical, regional, local basis. That the hypothesis was to demonstrate there was a correlation between where regional media coverage had appeared and whether that mapped onto a statistically significantly higher level of kind of inbound inquiries around the product recall. And the TLDR version of that was that yes, there was. In other words, where regional media coverage was generated, there was an above average number of inbound customer support inquiries, which was exactly what they wanted. They wanted to get the message out that yes, it's a product recall situation, and you really should get in touch with us, and we would really like to get in touch with us by ringing us up. So where the PR team was able to generate that regional media coverage, it was correlated with that increase. So I like that, because that was a situation where even if in the past you'd wanted to pull that kind of insight together, by the time you'd done it, the recall scenario would have been well and truly over months later. Whereas this, I can honestly hand on heart say that the actual dashboard took around 30 minutes. It was a simple case of pulling in the data from, in this case, it was a media monitoring feed that was automatically filling the Google Sheet. The recall data was being pulled in on a daily basis, so literally pulling in from the call centers. They're logging where the calls are coming from. It was a very, very, very simple basic spreadsheet that's sent over. That's added to as a data source, update and plot that on the map in the dashboard. So again, that's just one tiny example, but hopefully it's kind of fueling your creative juices about the possibilities now of the kinds of things we can start to kind of bring together and look at to try and understand some of the wider effects of our PR activity. I'm getting close to the end now, so I sincerely hope that what we've looked at so far has kind of sparked your interest and curiosity, at the very least, trying out Google Data Studio and perhaps experimenting with some sort of early dashboards. If you're looking for additional help and support and tricks and techniques, this dashboard from Lee Hurst, Helpful Lee. In kind of time-honored fashion, he has very, very, very kindly created a Google Data Studio dashboard that is a repository of useful tips and techniques about how to get the most out of Google Data Studio. So if you go to that URL there, you'll be able to fire up the dashboard in your own browser. It's just a great example of how the kind of creative uses that we can put a GDS dashboard. So you can hone in on a particular type of reporting, and then you can see a database of useful hints and tips articles, then they're rated. It's really kind of clever, and I'm still eternally grateful to him for creating it and freely giving it away. There we have it. I think I'm roughly on time. I said we'd do about 50 minutes, so that's 3:49 by my reckoning. I hope that's been a useful whistle-stop tour around Data Studio and some of its use case applications in integrated PR measurement.
Andrew, thank you so much. Pretty sure I can speak for everyone by saying that did not disappoint. So well done. We love it. And we have a couple of questions. The first is, you talk about it, and I think for people who aren't already acquainted with Google Studio, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So you've been doing this for a couple of years. Where do they start? You talk about all of the different functions and stuff, but with a great understanding of public relations, end of measurement and evaluation, where do they start? What does that roadmap look like?
Well, for someone like me who's been immersed in digital for as long as I have, it may seem odd that I still consider it to be one of my most powerful tools is a pen and a blank sheet of paper or perhaps Post-it notes. So it's just kind of standard advice, I think, for building dashboards. I would suggest before, absolutely go away and create your account. First of all, definitely do that. But perhaps before you even launch off and start, taking a template or staring at that blank screen, thinking, where do I start? Take that bit of paper, take those Post-it notes, and think, well, yeah, what am I trying to do here? Who is this for? Who is this dashboard going to be? Who's going to use it? What's the most vital pieces of information that I can show to them? I mean, it's the old kind of cliche about it's not about how much you can add. It's about what's left when you've stripped away everything. What is absolutely that's left? So I would start with a pen and paper and just perhaps think more clearly about, okay, what do I want to show on here? And then once you've got that in place, well, then you've got some direction as to where to start, because then you'll think, okay, to be able to display that, I would need to get the data from here. So I will select that as my data source. And now, rather than gazing at all the shiny little widgets and charts I could use, I know the right one. I should use a scorecard. It's simple. It's a simple number. And yep, I want to make a comparison. I want to be able to do a month-on-month comparison or a period-on-period comparison. Bam, there it is. That's a really vital piece of information. Has that big target number gone up or gone down? There. I mean, in many ways, for a lot of people, that literally could be the dashboard. It's just a series of little scorecards, and everything else, quite frankly, is just kind of nice to have, but it's not fundamentally vital. And all I'd urge is that start small. Don't try and boil the ocean. Start small, get some confidence. Then you can start to kind of get or you'll start to get more kind of creative ideas about, hey, actually now I realize that I can, that moving bubble chart that Andrew said was a nice toy. Actually, I've got a use case for it, and wow, that's going to blow people's brains when they click that little play button and they watch those bubbles move around, and it tells a story. It allows us to take a quite kind of complex set of data points and very simply convey the story. Anyone who's ever watched Hans Rosling, I mean, the great god of data visualization, or arguably it's his children who built the moving bubble. But anyone's ever watched the Hans Rosling video where he's talking about how health has improved in countries all around the world, and that was a fantastic example of taking what could have been just a mind-bendingly impossible set of data, and in one sort of simple chart, you push that play and it conveys the tale of how overall the health of people generally around the world has improved. So the fact that we can all be Hans Roslings if we put our minds to it, and he's definitely or was sad because he's sadly passed away, but one of the great exponents of a great data storyteller, which I've certainly always aspired to try and be. And I would suggest that anyone working or hopes to work into the future in PR, that's definitely something you should be including as part of your skill set.
Love it. And I think what I just heard Andrew say is whether you are using a pen and a Post-it note or the integrated evaluation framework, you must start with a clearly stated objective in order to set your mind at what you're trying to accomplish. So
yeah. Yes, and I'd take absolutely great point. The AMEC evaluation framework, yeah, sure. Take that and use that as a start point for thinking about how you might approach building a dashboard. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, it's entirely to you. You can either build it yourself. I've no doubt that there are going to be people who will provide very competent services in building these dashboards for you. But either way, that's your choice. But yes, absolutely. In many cases, you don't start with the tech. Start with that pen and paper and map out what the storyboard effectively. It's a storyboard. It's a data storyboard first before you start kind of diving in and then yes, that is the danger, of course. That there's so much, so many options, so much flexibility that it can offer you. It's the paradox of choice that you get paralyzed by. Oh wow, I could have a dashboard with 48 charts on it. Well, you could, but it's probably not going to be very useful to you.
Exactly. I mean, and I think we know that if you're using this for internal communication department purposes, maybe all of those data points have a time and a place with some of your business units. But if you're looking at sharing any of this up the ladder with your C-suite, you really have the attention span of 3 key data points. 3, not 47, not 400, 3. So if you're looking at confining it to those 3 things that are going to make an impact, that's really kind of the best use of some of these dashboards and data elements that you're going to be sharing around. Okay, I think we can fit in 2 quick questions if you don't mind.
No, sure, go ahead.
The first is, how do you feel about sharing data within Google, the Google platform, in light of the data security and privacy issues?
So in terms of the data that you're kind of providing to Google, so again, it's kind of a template around it. So providing that you're abiding by all the kind of rules and regulations of the original data source. I'm not a lawyer, but I think you should be on safe ground. I mean, I'm certainly aware there's been some interesting, well, not interesting, but I've certainly heard reports from people around, say, Google Analytics, and people have been sort of slightly concerned that well, we do use Google Analytics, and now with GDPR and other regulations coming in, are we kind of breaking the rules by even using GA? And the short answer is, well, you're not, providing, of course, that you did what Google told you to do, in that you've amended your GA tracking code to not collect IP addresses. The fact, of course, is that you shouldn't have been collecting any kind of PII data in GA in the first place. And if you have, then, well, you're already breaking the rules. The EU definitely is saying we regard IP addresses as personalized data. Google says, fine, we don't want it. Use our anonymized IP. GA4, of course, that's the default. So it will automatically anonymize IP. So that takes care of that. Anyway, to answer the question, as I say, I'm not a lawyer, but providing the underlying data source that you're using, you're abiding by the rules for that, which you almost certainly should be doing anyway, then that wouldn't affect your ability to then display it using a Google Data Studio dashboard.
Great. And then hopefully a final easy question, although we love that question because we love the ethics and integrity of making sure that how they're using data, that it supports all of the ethics and integrity that goes along with them being able to gain those insights. One final, hopefully easy question is, you mentioned the explainer videos. Do you have a tool or a software that you prefer to use for those quick explainer videos? And do you believe that they require a large production value, or is that lower in demand now?
So for quick explainer videos, well, I'm sure people are familiar with, or they've probably seen explainer videos built using a tool called Doodly. That's where it looks like somebody's kind of drawing a hand. So, I mean, Doodly is a relatively kind of inexpensive, easy to use tool that helps to kind of create some explainer videos. What's really interesting there, of course, is they've recently released a kind of companion tool that allows you to kind of automate the audio for audio creation. So you can literally select an AI generated voice, and you type in your kind of script, and then the AI will do the voiceover for you. And I thought, yeah, it's not really good. You could go, oh wow, okay, this is now this is getting to a point where this is quite scary. But the point that their argument would be the ability to create videos that are both kind of visually and in terms of the script and audio. Rather than you having to sit there kind of recording the audio and getting it wrong, you literally kind of get the script right, type it in, and the AI voice then generates the voiceover for you. And you've got a whole raft of accents and languages to use from. Other tools in that kind of category, there's one called Descript, DESCRIPT, similar kind of idea. So that's a great one where if you're prepared to spend 30 minutes training that tool with your own voice, that's it. You don't have to do anything ever again. You can just type in what you want to say, and it already will basically use your voice to then say those words with your intonation, inflection, etc. So you've got a ready-made way of generating your kind of podcast or audio track with less effort.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Andrew. It has been such a pleasure. Great knowledge and expertise that you've been able to share. And thank you everyone for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.
This is really fabulous. We so appreciate you. And we hope that you guys will join us for our next AMAC Measurement Month webinar, which will be on Monday. And we'll be talking about the latest results of the Eco World Report. Thank you everyone so much. Enjoy AMAC Measurement Month every day. There's a lot of great programs. You can find those on the AMAC website at the amacorg.com under the Measurements 2020 event. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Take care.